3, 2. Hello, I'm here at ISU. My name is Dan Moses. I am at International Sports Union, my boxing gym here in Burbank and Fulton, Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks, North Hollywood area. And you guys might know me from the podcast work that I do. It's mostly discussing religious politics for the most part, and I'm starting to get to a point where I realize that the intention behind a lot of religion gets really misplaced because people are putting the micro above the macro. And I want to talk a little bit about myself, how I ended up in this position, why it is that I'm even interested in having these discussions. First of all, I got to survive like the rest of us. I'm here in Los Angeles, California, and I really want to talk specifically to Californians. I'm going to make a bit of a transition from shifts that I've been having in my spiritual beliefs to my political beliefs, and then into ultimately human beliefs. And I grew up as an Orthodox Jew, and I'm no longer Orthodox Jewish. If you watched my last video, I'm quite literally said this is why I'm not Orthodox. And I do teach the Bible here at my boxing gym. It's part of my rehabilitation program called Second Round Redemption, where I offer people in need therapy, life coaching, boxing training, and I teach them the Bible on Sundays from 12 to 1. I call it a faith meeting. Now, these are very simple steps, and I've been able to rehabilitate about 15 people from meth, fentanyl, and heroin. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a minister. I'm not a rabbi. I certainly don't have any licensing on it, even though I've been perfectly fine to take on the label. For those who want to know, I'm outed. I did it to piss you off, and I'm kind of happy that I had that phase, but ultimately being a rabbi just doesn't serve me. It doesn't really identify who I am or portray me in the way that I want to be portrayed. And it's very difficult for people in religious institutions to break free from ultimately their cult. And it's been really heartbreaking for me as somebody who values the Bible, who values the morality that I believe is from the Word of God, seems to not be taught in religious institutions. And so as somebody in this chaotic concrete jungle that California is, I've noticed from the people who come into my gym, because I share as a part of my orientation, I've met thousands of different people running a gym like this, and I've met all different types of cultures and people. Let me tell you that a boxing gym brings in a very specific type of person, and boxing personally has helped me rehabilitate my mental health, has moved away from negative vices, and had me identify as a young man that I have had addiction problems. And in a generation of men who are mostly addicted, unfortunately pornography being the leading addiction for men, at 90% of men watching pornography, where women have disinterest in that from a more, I would say, biological standpoint. It's simply less physical and visually stimulating to them, but it's harmful on both sides, and it's certainly hurting our culture. It's hurting our youth. And as I've gotten deeper into this space, to not sidetrack too much, I have really found that the word of the Bible is genuinely the thing that heals people. It's healed me. It's gotten me to this point, to be self-reflectant enough to be willing to look inward and create some form of change in myself and even in others. Now, through the grace of God, which is, by the way, the only way to get better if you have an addiction problem. If anybody knows the success of AA, there's 12 steps. And the first step is to admit that you're defeated, that you have a problem, that you need help. The second step is that you need to establish a relationship with a higher power. Now, out of all the higher powers that present themselves, the most popular higher power on earth is Jesus Christ. And as a Jew, I was, of course, never allowed to even say that name because that's heresy. But the most interesting thing about Jesus Christ is that he's actually the son of Yahweh, which is the God of all earth, the God of the universe, the master of all things. And you see, Yahweh is the Old Testament God. Yahweh is the deity that separated a tremendous amount of the polytheistic religions and created a monotheistic belief, starting with Abraham separating himself from the other nations. Now, of course, there has been a transition. There's been a major malpractice amongst Jewish practice, and I don't actually really care about religion or what your sect is, but I do believe in the Bible and its transformative power. And if I'm going to be entirely honest, it is really the reason that I've ended up here doing the work that I'm doing. And so today I want to talk about some social issues that are going on, because the Bible is the greatest form of, well, it's the greatest arrow we have to traditionalism, towards beauty. And we live in a world, particularly me here in California, where everything is relativism. There is no objective reality. There is no objective beauty. There is nothing traditional and good. And this is manifested in a really nasty way, where art is disgusting. Film is pornographic. Men and women are extremely promiscuous. Men have become very feminine, and unfortunately, at a grand scale, very dysfunctional and homosexual. Women kill their own babies, which basically means, by the way, that if your mother had an abortion and you were born at some point in time, that you're conditional, you're not inherently valuable, you're convenient. Because the last guy that she was with fucking around, right? She didn't really want to have it with him, but maybe she wanted to have it with your father. And guess what? Most people are divorced as well. And divorce is directly correlated to crime, towards low education. And in this world of relativism, where there is no objective truth, and in California specifically, they make a mockery of all things traditional, where, of course, the pride movement, the gay parades, the pushing of homosexuality and transsexuality, which is funded by our government, by the way, to mutilate and destroy bodies in a way you simply can't comprehend. And we don't even care about abortions, for example. Now, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but these are some major issues that I'd like to talk to people in California that I'm really pissed off about it. Right? Like, are you not pissed off about it too? Is this all fun and games? Do you like all of this? Do you like the fact that your grandparents, your grandma was a virgin and she birthed your generation and allowed your children and your grandchildren to be here because of her traditional values? And nowadays, people are breaking up and they're promiscuous. 80% of women used to be virgins on their wedding days in the early 1900s. 5% of women are virgins on their wedding days. That basically means that if you're a man, men do not value female purity. They just don't care. And women don't really value it either, which is disgusting. You know, like, how did this happen? Like, you're really going to tell me that you're cool with, like, your girl getting ran through in college? What if that's your daughter, right? Does this help relationships? No. We see the studies. People in the early 1900s, 1 in 20 homes were single-parent households. Later in cut to present day, 1 in 4 children are single-parent households. This directly correlates to crime. And there's a major cultural issue. This isn't a religious issue. This is a human behavior issue. And that's why I am kind of stepping away from religion in many ways, because of course, religion is helpful. It's helpful for people, and it's blessed my life to have the information that's in the Bible. But there is traditionalism, there is beauty, there is an objective reality, and as people, if we want to change issues in politics and cultural issues, we need to change our behaviors. And there's a serious issue in politics, there's a serious issue in relationships, in dysfunction between men and women, and I'm going to kind of lay it out. See if other people are pissed off like I am and they want the word to get out. I feel like we don't really have much to lose. If you're a Californian and you're not allowed to talk about these things and this is genuinely how you feel, the only alternative is to fight back, right? Or we're just going to continue to conform And this sort of behavior is going to get worse and worse and worse. If you want to take a slight side tangent, I found out very recently, and apparently this is common knowledge, but when I go and I ask people, Adderall, which is one of the most popular ADHD drugs prescribed to 6-year-olds, is really just rebranded methamphetamine, okay? So we're giving meth to children in order to get them to conform to whatever bullshit we have in place for them. And if that's school and to sit still and do nothing, school has not been helping people. People are not getting work. They're starting their lives barely at 30. If you get married at 30 years old in this generation, you're young. So you've got all this years of sexual trauma behind you, mixed with loneliness and dysfunction and an art society that wants to twist everything to be freaky and twisted instead of truly beautiful. And you know, I went to an art museum semi-recently, and there was a painting, and on the painting, I'll read it so you guys get an idea of what is said. It is a painting of a naked woman on a cross wearing a gas mask with her breast out, and it says, "It's our pleasure to disgust you. Forget morality, forget innocence, forget shame, forget common sense, forget desire, forget heroes." Well, you've succeeded. I'm disgusted. I'm tired of being disgusted, and I hope you are too. We're going to make a bit of a tangent, shift over to a gentleman I have from my program, where I can talk a little bit about the rehab centers and the sort of corruption and the money funneling that is going on. Before I invite him on, I want to invite the viewers to take a look at a couple things that are real. I believe it's the president of, let me take a look here. You know, actually, before I look this up, something comes to mind as well. Everybody on these social media platforms is like put on the spot to be an absolute perfectionist. They can't mess up in their speech. They have to edit everything. Like, sorry, maybe I don't understand your lingo, but some of the smartest people in the world can't have very good conversations, and they're absolutely brilliant. And that's just a language problem. We live in this culture that likes to shame people based on words and what the camera angle shows you. Another thing I'm disgusted with. It's the president of El Salvador speech, where he basically discusses what's going on here in California, all around the world, which is that our tax dollars are just a facade, and they tax us a lot, not because we're really getting taxed, but or actually that our taxes are really being used. It's simply not enough money. They just tax us a lot so that they can print money from the Treasury and the federal, and it's a complete sham in order to keep the people weak and to fill their own pockets. And I think that is perfect for the sort of discussion in the rehab center as a young person who's just been trying to help, by the way, all on the basis of traditional values that I'm fortunate enough my family has maintained. Let's start with the prison systems, very simple things that most people don't know if they're not in it. Prison and jail are two very different things. Jail is for essentially small offenses, and prison is for large offenses. So if you're a murderer, you're going to prison. If you have a DUI, you're probably going to jail. The problem is that jail is a tiny little confinement. It's miserable. It's one of the worst places you could ever be in. And prison, you actually get good food, you got programs, you can learn, you can read. So basically, murdering pieces of shit scumbags get to live in prison, when people who just had a DUI and made a small offense are having to go through the worst of it. And they can be in prison for as much as 5 years. Let's not talk about the drug funneling that goes on in the prison system. The fact that the moment people are out, they cannot get work, they cannot get any help. About 20% of Californians are qualified for addiction, which is a massive, massive number. It's actually astronomical in terms of people. only about 3 to 8% of those people get the helps in these rehab centers. And these rehab centers and these detoxes and these clinics get hundreds of billions of dollars. And I'm going to bring on a guest to tell you about his experience in the rehab centers and how here at ISU Boxing at Second Round Redemption, I have not made $1 from this. Why? Because I believe in God, and it's one of the best ways to heal people. All you have to do is read the 12-step program. It is a necessity in order for you to heal. 2, it doesn't take that much hard work. There is a massive difference between a rehab and a clinic. A rehab means that you're going to be here for a short time in order to rehabilitate. You will get better. You will not stay here for longer than 3 to 6 months. People are living in rehabs. They're there for 5 years, for a decade. And the insurance make an absurd amount of money just for having one person. If I'm not mistaken, I believe one person in a rehab based on certain insurance companies on just a given week will make $22,000. So if you wanted to fill a house with 30 drug addicts and you charge the insurance company $22,000 a week, you'll make $2,500,000 in a home that probably doesn't even cost that much. When you get the addicts to pay for their own food, when you indoctrinate them with bad programming, with new medical practices like these people are rats or something of that nature, it just gets worse and worse. And of course I could rant on, but I don't want to keep my guests waiting anymore. Eric, go ahead and come on in and tell us a little bit about what's going on.
How you doing?
Good, Eric. Thanks for meeting with me today. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Eric Counts. I'm here for rehabilitation treatment from Huntsville, Alabama. The experience I've been having with this program isn't all that great. I came here with the mindset of being aware that I'm going to have food provided for me, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That I'm going to be talking to a therapist at least once a week. And that's not the case. They're going to be sending me home in the next 10 days or so. And I've only been here for 30 days right now. When I came here, I had the mindset I was going to be here for 6 months. I went to detox for 4 days and they put me in sober living. When I got to sober living, it turned into I'm going to be leaving in a few short weeks unless I do this treatment, which is called TMS. I didn't know much about it, but I want to stay here as long as I can in my treatment to be successful.
Eric, to kind of explain to the viewers, because obviously you're knowledgeable on the subject, I'm knowledgeable on the subject, but we want to talk to the viewers like everybody's an absolute layman. They don't have any sort of understanding to these terms and how things work. So let's create a frame and you'll answer a question. Okay? The first thing is just to admit how it is that you came here, what's your background, right? So how did you end up in the addiction space?
20 years ago, I was cutting grass for a living and I came up on a customer and I was smoking pot at the time, and it was a friend also. When I got done cutting the grass, he brought me in, smoke a joint with him, and then he offered me to smoke some meth. Up until 7.5 months ago, I smoked meth for 20 years. It's an experience I don't regret. I like the lesson I learned from it. I hope nobody does it themselves. I went to jail 7 months ago for 6 months, and that was the start of my sobriety. I came out 180 days sober, and when I got out, I was uncomfortable being in the free world, is what we would call it, from jail.
Keep talking, keep letting them know your story. Hey, Coach Miguel!
I was at a good place.
I want him to turn off the music.
with my family, but it was a bad area for me to be in, being every house across the street does drugs, they get high,
Coach!
they sell drugs. And it was a strong mental strain for me, and
Coach Alex!
almost got high twice,
Coach!
and both times I put it down and
Can
I
you
called
turn off
the
the
facility
music?
I'm at right now. I came here for mental health more than I did addiction. When I got here, the geographical distance was a breath of fresh air as soon as I got off the airplane. Everything, the biggest benefit I've been getting from is meetings outside of the program at AA meetings at Radford Hall. Great place. They pushed the treatment on us. They didn't really explain it to us. They told us there's a magnetic pulse that they put a device on the corner of your head right here above your temple, and they send these, quote, magnetic pulses. They're actually small electrical shocks to stimulate the part of your brain that controls motivation and depression. It's supposed to reduce depression, increase your motivation, and make you feel more motivated and happier. That's not the case. I've done 10 treatments, and at the 10th treatment, I came here to Dan's gym for my 3rd training session, and I couldn't even get through my first step of warm-ups, which is just jump roping. I started getting a real bad headache, and every time I jumped upward, it increased in pain to the point to where I had to close my eyes and couldn't do jump ropes anymore. I had to sit down, and I continued to have that headache from a Friday up until this last Wednesday. And I'm still dealing with it right now. When we start that procedure, they push it on us that we have to do it, or we will be leaving in 30 days. I came out here with a 6-month mindset. I came out here with the impression in my mind that I'm not gonna have to worry about providing food for myself. When we get here, they get other clients to take us to the Department of Public Services to get us food stamps and GR. And we have to claim that we're homeless to do this, which we're not. We're in a $3 million house. And then when it comes to the end of the 30 to 45 days with their TMS treatment, if you don't do it, you go home in 30 days with a certificate of completion. That's not even meeting yourself halfway when you come out here for a 6-month program.
So to pause you for a moment, to summarize for viewers, for me as well, because we'll just be having a conversation from this point out. You had a methamphetamine addiction for 20 years. You ended up in prison for 7 months?
6.
For 6 months.
Yeah, I've been out.
You've been clean for how many days?
Today is, I want to say 214.
214 days. So
213.
a major component of your sobriety would be spending time in prison.
Right.
And as you came out, you came to California in order to get the help that you need.
Correct.
And you would assume that a program is going to keep you there between 3 and 6 months, right?
Right.
And they don't reveal to you the timeline on these things. And so you come here to LA and you get into this house and you realize that nothing is being provided for.
Right.
Right? Ultimately, the most evident piece of information you've passed to me is that there is a TMS treatment, which sounds like some sort of electromagnetic therapy, which doesn't sound like the more reliable sort of therapy, as in like people that you would hire with degrees and psychiatrists.
Right.
And it's told to somehow magically heal you, yet it's actually done the exact opposite. It's inhibited you from doing anything, which to me sounds like very much like the sort of tranquilizer-esque medications that they put most people on who have anything to say or anything to do or anything to remember, right? And of
Right.
course they do this to children. Why in the world wouldn't they do it to addicts?
Right.
Does that sound like an accurate summary?
Yes. So, as they're telling us it's mandatory that we do this, I'm not the only client that's having issues or negative opinions on this procedure. Now, the 2 weeks I was doing the procedure, the tech that was doing it isn't a tech, he's another client from another part of the program. The tech was actually out on vacation while I was doing it. Monday was the first time I met the tech who's trained to do this. Now, Saturday they turned it down halfway, I addressed the headache. I ended up staying up all night Saturday with a severe headache. Monday I addressed it to the actual tech. Him and one of the personnel, staff members that work for the program that I'm in, made the agreement because I had left the office that the procedure's done at. I left, said no, I'm not doing it. I got back, they talked me into it they said they were going to turn it all the way down to 0. What's the point of even me showing up is what I'm thinking. But I want to stay in my program as long as possible because I'm here for mental health. That takes a lot of time to work on. My mind state is still incarcerated. I'm institutionalized. Talking to people I don't know is hard. Venturing is hard. Socializing, I have strong social anxieties because I'm afraid to take on more than 3-word what's the word? I'm afraid to acknowledge a conversation or start a conversation with somebody that's outside of my program because half of us have the same mindset. The other half are here riding it out, having a good time, and it's not what it's supposed to be. So,
I think that's a very honest approach. Thank you for sharing. I actually wanted to share something because I know about you, which is what is it that you do for work? What is it that you're capable of doing? Because a lot of the time, people who are uneducated with what goes on in the system, they think that every person who's ever been in and out of meth or has done some sort of drug rehabilitation is like a nobody bum who has no skills and isn't capable of thinking and coming up with ideas. I think that's exactly what the rehab is trying to create, and that's what they put out in the world. But before we side tangent, I want you to describe who you are and what you're capable of doing so people can create some sort of credibility to the things that you say.
all right. So, to answer that question, I'm 38 years old. I started working when I was 13, cutting grass, cutting trees. By the time I was 21, 22 years old, I had started working in an automotive service center, and I became a certified automotive technician. I got out of that, and I went into building bridges. I worked there doing that for 13 years. I'm a certified DOT bridge carpenter. I'm a Class D certified welder, crane rigger, crane flagger, traffic coordinator. I got my OSHA 10, my OSHA 30. I'm a fall safe certified. I got all kinds of safety certifications across the board. I own my own business cutting trees. And I mean, I'm not hesitant to give somebody help or talk to somebody if they need somebody. And I'm very well capable of being successful again. I've been successful once, and I went through a lot of personal things in a relationship that I was in for 10 years, and I mean, I didn't lose everything, but the person I was with got rid of everything that I worked for, ruined it. I got slapped in the face with all my efforts for 10 years to have a life. That tore me down. I was emotionally and mentally and verbally abused extensively for 5 years. And I mean, some of y'all think talking rough to people just, well, whatever. No, words are as good as stones. They will stick with you. There's things that have been said to me in times where I need to go to the hospital, it sticks with me. It's burned in my brain. I'm never going to forget it. And it'll drag you down, slowly but surely. So upon going in jail and getting incarcerated the last 6 months, or 6 months ago from this last month, was a blessing. I'm glad I got arrested. The things I learned while I was in there and watched people have to go through and experience was horrible. Where I'm from, they're holding people without giving them court dates for 2 and 3 years before they even get a deal from the DA.
Also, just to make viewers, that's completely unconstitutional. The Constitution clearly states that any crime that happens, there's supposed to be a hearing, and there's supposed to be a judicial system that steps in. Just throwing that in there.
Right.
And to compliment you on what you just said, the problem with your life that's gotten you to this point is the drug addiction and bad relationships, right?
Right.
And usually bad relationships tend to be fostered out of drug addiction, particularly of meth, right? But narcotics, it can happen in alcohol, it happens everywhere. And to kind of segue about the things that matter to me, because I'm somebody who gives simple things like therapy, right? Clearly, you need a therapist. You don't need electronic waves going through your body. You need somebody to be able to talk about these traumatic events with, to get to the root of the issue that's probably started well before those traumatic things have happened. Brilliant people like Carl Jung could be considered the father of psychology in many different ways, or Freud. Psychology is a relatively new field. Ultimately says that the root of addiction is in childhood. It's a neglect from the guardian, who is obviously incapable of giving that child the appropriate need. And so the child views this as, I am unworthy of love. And it's that shame trigger that later leads to addiction. It is not the first take of meth. It's not the first substance or drop of liquor, right? It's what happens in childhood and in the home. And the fact that a rehab that's in a $3 million home that's getting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars per week in order to rehabilitate you, who won't even pay for your food, is absolutely disgusting. And I want the people to hear that. I want them to know that out of the very little knowledge that I know, and I'm learning more as I go, that you, the people who are watching this, are the ones who are going to be able to help. And so go ahead and tell us about the horrors that you've seen in jail and the sort of corruption that's going on there too. You know, I don't think we had any doubts that was going on.
Right. So as I'm in jail, which that's the longest I've ever been in jail, again, I'm grateful. It's not the same for every person. Every person is just hit and miss, and everybody gets treated differently. I was in there for a DUI, controlled substance. I got blessed with an opportunity that they set me down for 6 months, and I had gotten some serious time off my plate by sitting that 6 months. Now, I've watched people. I was in there myself, cellmates, 8 people in one cell. I was in there with a man. He was in there for 3 years, still waiting on a court date. I was in there with people that I had become friends with. They were in there on minor trafficking charges, and they're charging $1.5 million for their bond. That's ridiculous. I mean, and see, a lot of the people they send to prison aren't even true criminals. They're getting arrested for small possessions, nothing large, repeatedly, and they're sending them to prison 5-6 years. Alabama's prison systems are overflowing with people. People are waiting 6 to 8 months to be transferred from jail to prison. 8-10 years ago, they was waiting almost 60 days to go to prison. When you get to prison, it's a cakewalk. In jail, jail is hard time. You don't get to go outside. you're eating ridiculously low quality food that says not for human consumption on the box. I worked in the kitchen for a few months.
Does it actually say that?
Yes.
On the box?
Yes.
That's comical. It's like worse than cat food, huh?
Speaking of cat food, what looked like beef smelled and looked exactly like cat food before and after it was cooked.
That's awful.
90%.
They're feeding this to people in jail who are obviously not getting court dates or going beyond.
Right.
Well, to my understanding, people in prison, I had a previous guest on here who, because he didn't want to share a cell with a homosexual during the AIDS epidemic, they added 34 sentences to his 13-year sentence.
Oh, wow.
And so he basically spent the majority of his life in prison. While ultimately, even murderers, right, in my opinion, should be killed, right? I don't think that they should be allowed to live after murdering somebody else. 13 years is not nearly enough time, and they let the worst of those people out from the sort of discussions that I've had with people here at my institution, talking to just about anybody who is willing to share their story. And so you got people eating shit in jail while pieces of shit that should be killed in prison are getting fed better food, and they're getting out. They're getting out and they're on the streets. And this isn't something that I made up. Irina Zarutska was the Ukrainian girl who got stabbed on a train in New York. And she was stabbed, I think, something like 13 times by a convict who had been in prison somewhere between 3 and 8 times. He's got like 8 or 10 felonies. Disgusting, despicable man. And you can actually watch the video. It's cultural, you know. It's part of the degeneration. You know, somebody who's been in prison. I don't want to sidetrack too much. Keep going on. I have that. I have that thing. But something that's really depressing is, you know, I was talking about a cultural issue, right? It's like, what is the reason that there's all this corruption here, right? Because we can keep going on, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to tell me about the food system, and if we go into prison, it gets even worse. And then you talk about the rehabs, and then you realize that they're just money funneling. When you get into businesses and how to run those, it's just all corruption. And I kind of want to take it back to the initial point that I was trying to make, which is something is very, very off about human behavior right now. Yes. There is something terribly wrong, and we need to identify it. We need to create some sort of change. I hope that your story actually inspires people to tell me their stories, to come here and get help if that's what they need. Because we might be a little short on time here, I want you to finish out with your jail statement, and then I'll ask you a couple more questions.
All right. So now, the corruptive root of the city and county jails is money funneling. Now, your court reporter lawyers and the judges, they work together. They're getting you to waive preliminaries and scaring you because you don't know the law into a point to where you plead guilty because you want to get it over with, and then they're going to run money out of your pocket from probation. Okay? Now, if for each inmate in jail where I come from, the city gets paid $260 a person. That's 1,500 people a day. They get paid that. All right? The money they're receiving from the court costs, from the guilty pleas that a lot of people aren't guilty. They're taking all this money and they're not putting it back into the jail. The jails are nasty, disgusting. All right? So now you got drugs in jail. Some people are smuggling it in. You can take Suboxone, something you can buy on the streets for $10, and there you can get $300 a strip.
Yeah, for the viewer's sake, Suboxone is basically repackaged heroin for heroin addicts to wean off of heroin, and there's huge shipments of that go into prison, and so we're actually giving drug addicts heroin in prison so that they can continue their drug addiction and their bad behaviors. Everything in the system is set up so that the moment they get out, they're so dysfunctional and they're so messed up that they're going right back in, and they want to keep it that way because they're making hella bank on this. And these
Yes.
people in prison, if they're not genuinely guilty for a serious sin and a serious offense, those are our brothers and our sisters. Those are people who've made mistakes and deserve a second chance. That's the whole point of a judicial system. And if we don't believe in things like that, this is not America anymore. The country that I live in, the things that I hear make me constantly more and more disgusted. And guess what? It is their pleasure to disgust you, and it couldn't be any more clear.
Correct. So now with the drug funneling, okay, when you're in jail, you get 2 or 3 people that do get by booking with some type of product. All right. That's just 10%. 90% is coming from the facility staff, guards. You can pay a guard $500 or $1,000 bringing 2-3 cartons of cigarettes. You can sell a cigarette in some jails for $20.
How can you pay that much money in jail?
People on the outside get together with the guard. Cash App's a big thing right now. That's a big thing. People are working Cash App, selling drugs inside jail through Cash App, or getting it put on their books. All right. Right. The heavy part of the drug funneling and smuggling into the prison systems and jail systems is coming from COs, guards. Almost easy 90% of it, because 2 or 3% get in from booking with it. Whatever they can get in between booking and shipping and being transported to prison usually don't make it out of jail with them because it's already gone. They done made their money off of it. I know people that go to jail deliberately, and they'll take 10 pieces of Suboxone and they'll smuggle it in and walk out with $3,000.
Yeah, so just like the rest of the things that are going on, most of these things are money funnels. They're not systems to keep criminals and to better them and to rehabilitate them and to have people who aren't capable of being in society away from it. It's really just another way to make money.
Right. So,
And,
sorry.
because we are short in time, and I know it keeps going more and more and more, I want to go back to the sort of help that you've been able to get here, right? As we kind of want to finish out with, like, if we can summarize, you can correct me if I'm right, but you're basically telling me, and this is stuff I know for myself from interviewing and helping many other people, that the rehab centers are taking a disproportionate amount of money in order to keep people drug addicts, in order to not help their rehabilitation and just hop from rehab to rehab to rehab. The jail system is also another money funnel to keep people in jail, and if they do get out, that they're going to come back in, and that the people who shouldn't be getting out are getting out, and the people who need to be staying there are not even getting a hearing. Does that sound like a good summary of the sort of things that you've shared with us today?
Yes.
Great. That's excellent for viewers to hear, and I want you to tell the viewers about how you stumbled in here and what you've been able to receive so far and where you're going to be going, working with me, who gets absolutely no funding.
Well, upon being released from jail, I've set out various goals for myself. Coming to California for addiction and mental health was the first one. The second one was finding a gym that I can get into and focus on myself for my health, mental health, change the group of people I associate with for a healthier, overall around healthier lifestyle that's going to promote healthier habits, a more positive future, stronger future, and sober future. I initially reached out to Moses Fitness, which is one of your...
It's my older brother's gym, yes.
Right. I found that gym through Facebook. In the first week I made it to Sober Living. I got stuck on a bus went somewhere to the beach for the first time, and I didn't realize it was going to take as long as it did on buses. So I missed my first appointment. The next day, your brother called and we talked, and I was able to tell him why I'm here, what I got going on, my living situation, the transportation situation, and that I'm in a sober living house. I'm here to work on myself and mentally and my sobriety and health and all around rebuild myself. What I'm getting from the facility, not much. When I came and met with you the first Sunday,
Well, they told you to come here.
your brother did.
Yes.
I called you, we set up an appointment. I made it my first face service with you, and I already felt a big spike in my personal pride. I was happy to be here. I'm glad this has been a lot more for me in just a few times that I've been here than what I've gotten from the program. The TMS situation has slowed me down a little bit, and I'm going to get past that, I promise you that.
We're going to get you back on.
So coming here, the first day I came here was the first best thing big step I've taken to feeling better about myself. Talking to you has done a lot for me. Training with Alex has been great. I got to get in there more. I got some things going on that I may not be able to come back from Alabama. I got to go back. I'm hoping I get to come back.
Well, I think I'll be able to help you in part of this more than you know. And for the time being, you are going to have to do the therapy with me. I will see you on Sunday for our faith meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And the working out needs to be a part of the routine. You have to train 2-3 times a week, and I know that you're taken off because of this TMS system, but we're absolutely going to get you back on, and we haven't really delved deep. We're going to get you in a stable situation. At the very least, we're going to help you transition smoothly so that the next place that you go doesn't turn out to be such a disaster that the California rehabilitation centers are.
Right.
And so thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your story, Eric. We're going to continue to work with each other, and I look forward to being a part of your journey.
I hope you're there with me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I would be more than happy to come back and discuss more and talk more.
Well, we'll have to do until next time. All right.
Awesome.
Nice.